The brotherly agreement of the brethren from Bohemia and Moravia, and others, binding them to walk according to the apostolic rule. Herrnhut, 1727. 1. It shall be forever remembered by the inhabitants of Herrnhut that it was built on the grace of the living God, that it is a work of his own hand, yet not properly intended to be a new town, but only an establishment erected for brethren and for the brethren's sake. 2. Herrnhut and its original old inhabitants must remain in a constant bond of love with all children of God belonging to the different religious persuasions. They must judge none, enter into no disputes with any, nor behave themselves unseemingly toward any, but rather seek to maintain among themselves the pure evangelical doctrine, simplicity, and grace. 3. The following are the characteristics of a true member of Christ's body, and these we, the inhabitants of Herrnhut, who simply adhere to the foundation built on the Word of God, deem to be the most sure. Whosoever does not confess that he owes his awakening and salvation exclusively to the mercy of God in Jesus Christ, and that he cannot exist without it for one moment of his life, that the greatest perfection in life, where it's possible to attain to it without the intercession of the mediator, urged by the plea of his blood and merit, would be of no avail in the sight of God, while it is made acceptable in the beloved. And whoever does not daily prove it by his whole conversation, that it is his full determination to be delivered from sin through the merits of Jesus, and to follow daily more after holiness, to grow in the likeness of his Lord, to be cleansed from all spiritual idolatry, vanity, and self-will, to walk as Jesus did, and to bear his reproach and shame. Such as one is not a genuine brother. But whoever has this disposition of heart, though he maintain sectarian, fanatical, or at least deceptive opinions, shall not on that account be despised among us. Nor, in case of his even separating himself from us, will we immediately forsake him, but we will rather follow him in his wanderings, and bear with him in the spirit of love, patience, and meekness. But whosoever is not fully established on the above-named fundamental principles, though he do not wholly forsake them, shall be considered as a halting and wavering brother, and reclaimed in the spirit of meekness. 4. It is laudable in itself for the congregation to devote certain days of the special remembrance of the faithful leading of our God, celebrating them with fasting and prayer, or thanks and praise. Such days, for instance, as that of the emigration of the first brethren on the 12th of May, on which day in different years many remarkable events have taken place. In like manner, every individual may consecrate those days, which to him are the most memorable to the Lord, spending them as above with his intimate brethren and friends. But in both cases, care must be taken that this appropriation of certain days do not denigrate into mere lifeless custom. 5. Those who, with an unfettered conscience, acquiesce in the present external regulations of the Church, will not hesitate to declare the ground of their acquiescence, to wit, that they do not consider human regulation and custom as an unalterable part of divine worship. Agreeably to the dictates of Christian liberty, in a spirit of meekness, love, and obedience, till the Lord himself brings about a change. Should in after times any particular order of things be introduced among us in respect to the outward form of devotional rites, simplicity and edification must be aimed at exclusively. 6. Whoever has not been used to auricular confession, or has conscientious objections in his mind against it, shall not be forced to submit to it at Berthelsdorf. Yet no one shall be permitted to go to the Holy Communion without the previous knowledge of the minister of Berthelsdorf, in order that all confusion and levity may be prevented. 7. No one is to enter into confidential intercourse with people that are notoriously wicked or altogether worldly minded, lest offense should thereby be given. Yet it is proper that such people should be treated as much as possible in an equitable and unassuming manner, and none should allow themselves in any vehemences against them. 8. Everyone should be careful to comprehend the true foundation of the saving doctrine on which we are all agreed, that so we may be able to give an answer to all our adversaries in meekness, yet with wisdom and power, and all may mutually defend and support one another. 9. When any traces of a good work begin to show themselves in one soul or another, no premature judgment concerning them should be formed, but it is expedient to wait with patience till the fruits begin to appear, while we must feel thankful to God for the good beginning which is to be traced, and promote their welfare as much as lies in our power. 10. In general, we consider it an abominable practice for anyone to judge and condemn his neighbor rashly, and without clear and full evidence, and without previously using all the acknowledged and scriptural degrees of brotherly correction. Whoever, therefore, is guilty of this unjustifiable proceeding subjects himself to well-merited censure. 11. Ministers and laborers, and all whose official incumbency is to care for and watch over the souls of others, must be at full liberty to hold frequent and full intercourse with one or the other, and no suspicion is to be cast on them on that account. 12. As the conversion of souls is the chief object of most of the present inhabitants of Herrnhut, everyone must be permitted to choose those with whom he would, for the time being, be more intimately connected than he could be with others, and to alter his choice according to circumstances without fearing to give offense. The intercourse between single persons of both sexes must have its restrictions, and the elders are empowered to prevent it whenever in any case scruples arise in their mind against such intercourse, though the apparent aim of it might be ever so laudable. 13. Envy, suspicion, and unfounded prejudice against the brethren must be most carefully guarded against, as everyone is at liberty to cultivate an intercourse with others. No one should take it amiss if another should appear more familiarly acquainted with the elders than he. 14. For the sake of the weak, no light conversation is to be allowed concerning God and spiritual things, but for such subjects ought always to be treated with the greatest reverence. 15. Agreeably to the practices of the primitive church, the brethren are called upon to exert themselves in every possible way for the benefit of those are of the same household of faith, and to all others they are to do as they would wish that others should do unto them. 16. Whoever has received the needful gift, for it is to speak, the others to judge. 17. Those who seem to be best suited one to the other may, without hesitation, live in the habit of close familiarity, join in prayer, and act in all respects as intimate friendship requires. Yet such preference given to any individual must by no means be the prejudice of cordial brotherly love toward all others. And it becomes the duty of those who are particularly acquainted one with the other to lend each other a helping hand as it regards doctrine, admonition, reproof, direction, yea, their whole spiritual course. 18. No brother is to enroll himself as a member of any particular trading or handicraft association without first acquainting the others of his design. And no business carried on among us is to be looked upon as in itself mean and despicable. 19. No one shall, even in the smallest way, overreach his neighbor, much less defraud him. 20. No marriage is to be contracted without the knowledge and approbation of the elders, and no promise of marriage is to be given and received except in their presence and with their consent. 21. No son shall require his father or mother to move from his house as long as they have a mind to continue there in peace and quietness. 22. All superstitious notions and practices are inconsistent with the character of true brethren, and idle tales of apparitions, omens, etc. must be looked upon as foolish and hurtful. 23. As there are those who more particularly stand in need of daily admonitions, there shall be daily opportunities given for exhortation and edification at Herrnhut. Yet no one can be considered as obliged to attend on these occasions unless the whole congregation should be expressly called to assemble together. 24. If anyone should be overtaken in a fault, he must not consider it as disgraceful to be spoken to on the subject, or to receive admonition or reproof. He ought to take it in good part and not allow himself to retort, much less think himself warranted on that account to withdraw from the fellowship of the brethren. All matters of this kind should be judged and decided exclusively by those whose official incumbency requires their interference. 25. Whosoever spreads any unfounded report against another is bound to declare to the elders the reason of his allegations, and afterwards to recant the report, whether required to do so in consequence of the complaint of the person injured thereby, or not. 26. Whenever in public companies anything is said to the disadvantage of anyone not then present, everyone is authorized to acquaint the person alluded to of it, yet without naming the offender. 27. It is the special duty of some brethren to visit, from motives of self-denying charity and love, those fellow members of the congregation who are afflicted with sickness and ailments, and to attend to their wants. And as long as we shall be favored to have a physician who is one of us, every inhabitant of Herrnhut should speak to him and ask his advice about any ailments or illnesses of his before he seeks counsel from others. No one who is not properly qualified for it should venture to undertake the cure of others. 28. The names and circumstances of the patients are to be immediately mentioned to the sick waiters of both sexes, and the prescriptions of the physicians, as well as the directions to the sick waiters themselves, ought to be carefully observed by both the patients themselves and by those who are about them. 29. Everyone must conscientiously keep to himself what has been confidentially and as a secret entrusted to him. 30. No one is to harbor anything in his mind against another, but rather immediately and in a friendly and becoming manner mention what may have offended him, without respect of persons. Complaints which have been purposely suffered to accumulate must not even be listened to, but quarrels, envy, and willful dissensions ought to be abominated by all, and those who are guilty of these things be looked upon as unbelievers. 31. A mechanic or tradesman ought to be most punctual in fulfilling the promises he has made, and in case circumstances should prevent his doing so, it is his duty to mention in due time the cause of his not being able to act according to his promise. 32. All judicial interference is to be grounded in the plain commandments of God, on these statutes, and on natural equity and justice. 33. Every effort shall be made to reclaim the erring by friendly reproof and discipline, but should this fail, the offender is expected and required to leave this place. 34. The elders shall hold a conference every Saturday, and if any be cited to appear before the conference, he is to obey the summons, and in case of reiterated and obstinate refusal, he must leave the place. 35. The watchers are to sing a verse from a suitable hymn at the change of the successive hours in the night, with a view to encourage and edify the congregation. 36. The doctrine and example of Jesus and his apostles shall be the general and special rule of all our ministry and instruction. 37. Whosoever perseveres in an open course of levity and sin, though often before warned and admonished, shall be excluded from our brotherly fellowship, nor can he be readmitted till he has given sufficient proofs of his being an altered character. 38. All young people at Herrnhut who shall confess their faith in Christ are to be confirmed, after which these statutes are to be given them for their consideration. 39. No magisterial person, minister, elder, or warden, nor anyone else who may in this or in other respects have authority over others, shall use the power possessed by him, otherwise than to be a helper of the joy and of those over whom he is placed, and to comfort them in sufferings, trial, and wants. 40. All who are influenced by the love of God must keep up a friendly and cordial fellowship with all who are like-minded, making in this respect no exceptions. 41. Everyone shall be at liberty in love to admonish and rebuke his brother, whether there is ground for it or not. But this must be done with great modesty, and all vehemence on either side be carefully avoided. If an explanation or an exculpation be offered, the person who gave the admonition ought either to be satisfied with it or refer the case to other brethren. 42. Should we be called to suffer persecutions? Everyone should consider them as precious and most useful exercises. Love those that persecute us, treat them respectfully, answer their questions with modesty, simplicity, and cheerfully submit to what may befall us, according to the confession made before God and man. The Brotherly Agreement of 1727.